It's a psychotic beach party. Our nerd. Welcome back to Glenn Hates Everything, where we're going to find out if I really do. Today's film is called The Surfer, which opens on May 2nd, 2025, and it stars Nicolas Cage. It's directed by Lorcan Finnegan, written by Thomas Martin. Lorcan Finnegan you may know from the film Vivarium, which I quite enjoyed. It starred Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots. They're a couple that live in kind of a suburban purgatory and they just can't get out. They can't find their way out. It shares a lot of the same DNA with The Surfer. The Surfer is almost like a reverse home invasion thriller where the person being invaded invades the invaders. Or you kind of will see the connection there once you see the film. It's set in Western Australia, and Nicolas Cage plays the Surfer. We never know his real name, and he comes back to Australia from Los Angeles. He was born in Australia and he left, but he has a son, a teenage son there, and a soon-to-be ex-wife, and he's moving back there to buy an expensive home overlooking his childhood surfing beach and wants to reconnect with his family and hopefully impress them enough that they come back to him. His expectations are a little unreasonable. But, he's kind of that ugly American who comes to a country and expects everything to fall in his lap. He's not the most likable character, but he is relatable, which is to Cage's credit, that he brings a tremendous amount of empathy to this role. This film kind of exists in that dream state, that sort of alternate reality. Examples being like Blowout by Brian De Palma, Moulin Rouge by Baz Luhrmann, or even Nicolas Cage's own Mandy, which is like the king of alternate reality films. And The Surfer kind of, is on that same level. It's really violent. It's really trippy. It's very sun-dappled, lots of hyper-saturated blue colors, thanks to the cinematographer, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, Radek Lachik, who also did The Babadook and Nightingale. Really stellar cinematographer. And this film does. It exists in that weird fugue state. Cage comes to this childhood beach with his son, who he's pulled out of high school for the day just so he can impress him. And they meet a marauding band of locals who are not having it. They don't want anybody that's not local on that beach. And they make it very clear with violent threats that turn even more specifically violent. That group of mean Aussies is led by Scally, who is played by Julian McMahon, who you may know from Nip Tuck, for example. And he's kind of that guru, that cult leader that corrals all these horrible guys together who are just behaving so terribly. They seemingly live in the shack down at the beach and never leave. And they just terrorize anybody that's not local. They'll spray paint their cars or steal stuff from them or beat them up very violently. And Nicolas Cage, when he first confronts them, is not having it. He feels a great injustice is being done and that he should get his way. So he calls the cops. They're not much of a help. He, warns other people. They don't really listen to him. His son gets fed up and eventually leaves. And Nicolas Cage is just there in the parking lot, looking out over this beach. And that's it. The entire movie is set on the beach and in that parking lot. It's a really interesting study in contained locations. And I was very impressed because it feels more expansive than it actually is. It has a really cool score by Francois Tétaz, who, it reminded me of Blue Velvet in a lot of ways, where it's this sort of 1950s style melodic score with this backdrop of intense violence and that toxic masculinity. So you would expect more of a horror score, but it doesn't quite go there. And it's a really interesting juxtaposition that I quite enjoyed. Cage, he's in this renaissance of playing these gonzo guys losing their minds. But I'm thinking that he's tapping into something different here. You do feel a lot of empathy for this guy, even though he can behave like a total jerk at times. You understand him. You understand his rage of not being seen, not being listened to. There are a lot of themes about aging in this, where he is just not considered relevant, and he's, the laughingstock of these surfers who just think, this old man, they're looking at him as, Mr. Dad joke, basically. And Cage does a great job of letting you feel what he is experiencing. We also just get inside his head, the sound design, the intensely close up cinematography that gets you there. We even hear the voices in his head, which in one sequence are just completely nuts and really a highlight of the film. Things turn incredibly crazy, especially in the third act, and it doesn't go where you think it's going to go, which I found surprising, maybe a little anticlimactic, and that's what I would say. It's not the most satisfying film, but up until that point, it is. It's a lot of fun if you can tolerate the intensity of it. I would highly recommend it. It's that that sweet spot, that catnip that I enjoy in a film that's really pulpy, very much a midnight movie in its way, and it's definitely worth checking out. Now, I would also say that it's that home invasion thriller in reverse that I was saying before. It's really true because in a typical home invasion, these mean surfers would be invading Nicolas Cage's home and terrorizing him. But it's the other way around. He's kind of invading their home. They're still terrorizing him, but from their point of view, he's terrorizing them. So who is really the invader? It brings up a lot of interesting questions, but ultimately it's this existential nightmare about this guy who's going on a journey to find out what is really important, and not in a corny way. He comes to a place where he has to redirect his priorities and find out what it really means to coexist on this earth. And that might be giving this film a little bit too much credit, but it does bring up a lot of these cool issues. So did I hate it? Absolutely not. I didn't love that ending, so I will nitpick there. But no, see, I guess I don't hate everything. So they're stupid friends who think I do. But I hope you subscribe, like, come along, see what else I'm going to hate on or maybe love next time. And until then, later, haters.